Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Jim and Sam Town Square. I'm Scott King. Jim and Sam fans know me from the Forbes articles, and I'm joined, as always, by multi-Emmy award-winning television producer Chris Cangilla. This episode recapping week 4 of April 2024. Chris, a lot to get to. As always, we keep adding to the Jim Hates potential bracket challenge for next year. I don't think it's going to happen unless they somehow do some kind of joint broadcast for some show. I don't know, but it's great that they keep adding to it. And a lot of times we're not hearing, okay, get that down. Are you kind of just hoping when Jim starts talking about hating something that they're getting it in the background?
I think when they question it, like, okay, is this something you really hate or you just aren't happy with?
So that
When
didn't
you
happen a
hear,
lot this week, though.
yeah,
I don't
yeah.
think. So I
So
hope they
when
got.
when you so when you hear that, I think they do write it down. There's going to be a ton because it seems like every day he has something new. But tell us about this one.
So and this one I agree with. I cringe when people say tone deaf, and you can tell that Jim hates it. It's something that he's had rants about before. So no surprise there. Maybe surprised it wasn't in this year's big tournament. But yeah, I also hate tone deaf.
I do like I do understand when you see it, like this person is tone deaf to the other people. Yeah, that's bad. But there also is a true group or people that are tone deaf sometimes to certain things. If you think about where the tone deaf came from, is that it came from a mic, like a musical thing where you can't really distinguish the tones and you can't hear those things. So maybe a global complete tone deaf, I hate, but sometimes there are some people that don't hear things even a little bit and won't even listen to the other side.
Yeah, just it's one of those things that gets overused now. I feel like
Yeah,
that's what
for
Jim.
sure. As a term, I hate it too.
And speaking of tones or tunes, there was I guess a surprise character at Coachella. And what did he's a bassist, right?
Yeah, yeah. So
Certain
they were
bassist.
looking at Coachella, and this was a surprise to them too, I believe, because Sublime they lost their singer right after they got really popular. I think it was a drug overdose. Their lead singer, good band, man, just really, really cool, really innovative, and so they lost their singer, and it turns out they did Coachella this year with the son of the lead singer taking lead vocals. And they had some fun about that. I mean, the guy sounded good on some things, and then he grunts, and it really was stupid. So they made fun of that. But the bass player is a spitting image of Chip Chipperson. Oh my goodness. I had to look it up, and they're not kidding, man. Please, everyone, check that out.
Yeah, Baserson. I think somebody might have called. Looks just like him.
I
Uh,
like that.
yeah, yeah. That was absolutely outstanding. And I don't know how to segue into this, but a great part of the past came up. And this is an O&A thing. One of the things that just gets carried out through all the iterations of the show. When Travis did his mom, 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 I believe over the school PA, drunk driving PSA. And I can't believe the guys had it. He had to do it over the PA, and then they had a recording of it.
Yeah.
And I just can't, it's one of those things you can't believe they had back then, and we're still revisiting now. It's
Did
amazing.
it come about when everybody brought in their most embarrassing thing on tape? I think Jim had a stand up, and I think Sam was his little rap career of Milk Duds or whatever.
It may have.
Yeah, I
It
think
may
it
have
came
been.
up during that. I mean, that's where all these old little bits, embarrassing bits came up, I
Yeah.
think, from back in the day. And so it
Yeah.
was great to revisit that one.
It's an amazing one. A tough classic. And also, I love that Sam was talking about having to sneak content out of the show because that is what they do have to do. They're literally, one way or another out of pocket paying people like Hot Dog to record their big interviews. And I have more thoughts on this, but basically Variety picks up the Giancarlo Esposito quote or response to Jim's question, I think, about how he was contemplating like suicide or maybe like a murder for hire because he was doing so bad before he got Breaking Bad. And that's just something that like this guy's a huge star. Like get a camera turned on, hit the button. I mean, it's insane. And once Variety runs it, a bunch of other outlets are going to run it. And just outside of that, the show has a decent following, even just on social media. So like when you have like Sam's dad come in too, or just guys who are like if Voss comes in, like just keep it rolling. There's gonna be some really funny stuff that would play really well on social for that. It makes no sense. And I completely understand if Jim wants to leave or anyone else does.
It's just asinine. In the world that I live in, I know how to record things. It doesn't take anything other than turning the cameras that already exist on. Audio's already done. We hear the audio. Turn the cameras on. Record. It's not tape, it's digital. Record. There's your file. Done. You don't even have to man it. Just point it in the right direction.
Yeah.
It's extremely frustrating, and it's sad that these professionals have to resort to doing it themselves. Then they release it, right? It gets picked up, and they're baffled. Like, look, we are successful. We get people to be interested in what we're talking about. It's viewed. And going back to who this person is, Giancarlo Esposito is huge. He has done so much, well recognized, and had a great rapport with Jim and Sam when he was in the studio. And I learned stuff about him that I never knew from this interview because they're good interviewers. So yeah, it's extremely frustrating, and some management probably doesn't want to be done at all, right?
Right, right. And we need to get Jim McClure on this situation.
Hey guys, I really don't think that it's important to do the brand. I can't even do his voice because I don't even never
Oh,
heard him.
it
You know,
was
it's just,
that was maybe my favorite part of the week. Is not my line of the week, hopefully not yours, but when they go, Jim's doing Jim McClure, and he goes, "Hey guys," he leans in, he goes, "Hey guys, we can't get any new subscribers. Don't have the bandwidth. don't put that out there."
we don't want more subscribers, right?
Uh,
Hilarious.
it's amazing. Speaking of Jim, there
Yeah.
is a new running kind of gag about how he describes somebody he's very close to that keeps doing amazingly silly and preposterous things. A friend of our shows, of course, his wife Nikki. And when Jim tells a good Nikki story, a quip, he likes to label it as someone he knows. So someone Jim knows did a lot of things this week. I mean, maybe highlighted or headlined, I should say, by mistaking someone else for being trans and telling them that, talking like, "Oh yeah, no, you're trans" or whatever they said, and they got it wrong. That to me, that's probably worse than guessing someone's pregnant and being completely wrong. Those are both bold dives.
Yeah, and absolutely love, when Jim says, someone I know or someone I live with, which is great
Right.
because he's going to tell a story about Nikki. It's fantastic. So yeah, I guess Nikki's transdar was off. She didn't feel it, didn't hear it, didn't see it, and made that mistake. But she has such a good personality, she can, smooth it over, I'm sure. And I don't believe the person was too offended by that. But yeah, that's a little bit tougher than, hey, when's the baby due? Yeah.
She is also, and I wonder if she got this kind of like self-realization from Jim and watching Jim perform or just how he is in conversation, but she's a bad storyteller, according to Jim. Uh, but she also acknowledged it to, I believe it was at an art show. TJ Miller's wife, Kate, had an art show. I think they call this one an installment. And she started telling somebody a story, and Jim said, and she goes, "You know what? This story's not going anywhere." The
Yeah,
first,
I mean, yeah, I thought there were like more showings in galleries, but who knows? Who
yeah.
knows? Anyway, yeah, so yeah, she did have the fortitude to, tap out. Like this story's going nowhere, which is hilarious. And so yeah, so I applaud her for that. But yes, she may be a bad storyteller. I think, and you could probably attest to in our lives, we work with stories, right? And we have people in our lives that tell stories. And I produce as a producer, my wife, when she's telling me a story, I'm like, let's go, wrap it up, get to the end. And she hates it. You know what I mean? She just gets so mad. So Jim being in this world, maybe it's a point where he's like, okay, this story is not radio worthy. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
people don't tell stories like, they're on TV or radio.
Yes, they don't get to the good part quick enough. That's
Right.
the case with Mrs. Nikki Norton. And something to keep an eye on, and we'll definitely monitor her, is she is becoming friends with a dangerous pair. And who would that be?
Yeah, Nicole Biggins and Lisa Tefft. She is becoming friends with them, and boy, that is a dangerous thing because we know Nicole's wild side, right?
Yes, we
And
do.
we know Lisa's love of things fancy and expensive. Well, that's Nikki, boom, to a T. So I can see why she'd fit in perfectly with that duo.
They're just gonna pull at both of those sides of Nikki and pull at them and pump them up and amplify them. It's gonna get interesting.
It
And
is going to get
we do
interesting.
know that we do know that a credit card was taken away before. Who knows what's
Yes.
gonna happen now? Who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe it'll all be on the Tefft account. We'll
Could
see.
be.
Another thing Jim and Nikki have going on is that when Nikki is trying to get Jim's attention, whether he's reading or doing some work, she gives him a hello. And when you're deep in thought or working on something, that can really bother you, can't it?
Yeah. I can just see Jim focused on something because he does kind of get focused on things, a little manic at times. And she's probably telling a story poorly, right? We've already heard that. And Jim has her on secondary hearing and she's not really listening to her. And hello, So yeah, that is not always something that you want to hear, or as like women, they don't want to hear you say, just relax, relax. They
Yes,
hate that.
yes. You do have to watch that at times. Exactly what you say. Speaking of words, they are looking for, and I just watched the new sword fight, listened to it. It was fantastic. They are looking for a theme song. And I will say, and the new episode this week, there is a rap song. It's kind of like old, not this horrible Scandal P. Diddy, but when he was Puff Daddy with Mace, like late 90s, there is a rap song that I hope they pick. It's very good. But Travis, I think, found his song for the show, and they were playing it. The song was funny enough, and I could not believe who the song was by.
Yeah, I mean, Sam and Travis knew exactly the right show, a right song for this show. It's called Strut, and we're listening to it, and we're like, "Do you know the artist?" I'm like, "I didn't know." Steven Seagal, actor, karate artist or martial artist, weird dude. It's a weird song, so it did kind of fit with the Sword Fight podcast.
If you haven't yet, people should look up stuff on him hosting SNL. He, by many accounts, is the worst SNL
Yes,
host of all time. Not just performance, excuse me, but by how he treated people
being a
behind the
jerk. Yeah,
scenes. It's legendary how brutal he was. That
absolutely.
song is amazing, Strut. Absolutely amazing. Speaking of amazing songs, and I thought this would have gotten blown up bigger. I was excited to listen to this part, and you're a music guy. Ozzy in the Hall of Fame solo. And I thought there'd be a bigger pump. They kind of teased Jim. But after the teasing, there was never a big blow it open. Oh my God, Ozzy's in. So it's kind of Sam's like, dancing around it on purpose to be funny. Kind of just like, I felt like brought it down and it stayed there.
Yeah,
How'd you
it
feel?
didn't ever boost up.
Yeah.
It's a big deal. I think Ozzy's career was a little bit probably more popular in the solo realm than being part of Black
Yeah. I think
Sabbath.
Jim feels that way. Yeah.
At least for where I was growing up and hearing his stuff with Randy Rhoads and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, he'll be inducted right alongside those other heavy rock and rollers, Cher, Mary J. Blige,
There you go.
and Kool and the Gang. So rock and roll, heavy metal, right up there in the Hall of Fame. Actually, I like watching the Hall of Fame when it comes out on like HBO or whatever. They do some good backstories and videos and seeing the guys perform, which Jim loves guys performing for real, is always a pleasure.
Yeah. And I think he interviewed Black Sabbath at the Hall of Fame when they went in. I believe they
That
chose
probably
him
makes
instead.
a lot of sense. And wasn't it he couldn't go to Kiss's induction? That was
Right.
when he had the gig, and that's where we would have had the opportunity to get the
Yes. Yeah.
yeah,
Still haunts him. Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
at
And
the Hall of
you
Fame.
just feel that when he talks about it. Interesting fact, though, about Black Sabbath, they went in as soon as they were eligible in '06. As soon as they were eligible, they got in. I was reading that last.
Well, I think maybe it was a little bit more heavy. I'm just making fun of the rock and roll part, but I think it was a little bit more rock and roll focused than other music. I mean, they should just call it the Music Hall of Fame,
That is how it is.
because yeah, it is like that. But I think back then it was a little bit,
Back then it was.
20 years ago or so. Yeah.
Had to be a rocker. Had to be a
Yes.
rocker. And no segue here, but Sam, I want to call this, and it's something that drives me crazy, and I always forget to mention on our show is Sam does spoil things. He'll do this. he'll do this. Oh no, no, it's not a spoiler. It's not a spoiler. But here's the thing: you are, and I know you want to talk about the show they're talking about, Baby Reindeer, but you are making a judgment call as to what's a spoiler for the other person. Maybe you don't want to watch a lot of previews. Maybe you want to go in fresh. And once someone's excited about the new thing they're watching, they start maybe getting into things that are spoilers. And I think Sam has done this many times.
Yeah,
Many.
it upsets me when it's still something that's maybe out less than a month. If they're talking about something that happened in Sopranos, there's no spoiler,
I'll give him a
right?
month. Yeah.
You've
Yeah.
had so much time to do it. So yeah, I think he does do that. But also, I do enjoy talking about. I've learned to go look for shows because of what they're talking about. I
100%.
start,
That's fair.
yeah,
Yes.
I started watching Baby Reindeer because of what they were talking about. Because there's so much out there, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't know if I want to start this. I don't know that. So if I hear some buzz about it, then I have my interest up. So I don't mind it as much. I know it upsets you. This Baby Reindeer looks. I've watched a couple episodes, and I'm not going to give anything away. I'm not going to be the Sam to your Jim, but
Uh-huh.
I will say Jim has some similarities to the main character
Fair enough.
in his life. So just look for that.
Fair enough. Fair enough. And yeah, we got some really good doc recommendations from them and all kinds of stuff. It's just when I do skip a lot because I know Sam's
Yeah.
into something it's he's gonna talk about for a while, and there's next thing you know everybody who lives or dies.
Okay. Along this line, I'm just going to do a little diversion. 90 Day Fiance. I've not watched one episode. I've kind of listened to what they do, but when that comes on and they talk about it, this is just my personal thing. I'm like, okay, get through this, get through this, get through this, move on to something else because I'm not a fan. It's hard
Okay.
sometimes when they spend a lot of time on something. Although I've liked the characters they've brought out and the way they talk about them. That's funny to me, but when they talk about the new season and what's going on, I'm completely lost. It's just my personal
I
opinion
don't think
that
they stay out too long. I don't fast forward. And in the past, like there was no skipping over Siggy Breath or the mom.
no, I mean, there's
No skipping
great
over.
things that they've brought out from there. I just, when it comes to, when it goes on too long, I'm like, all right, I don't know anything that's going on, and I'm not going to start watching, because they talk about how long these episodes are, 90 Day Fiance. I'm not going to invest 3 hours just to see the same thing I've seen before.
Agreed, agreed. I can't sit through those and watch those. So going from one legend in Ozzy, and look, there were three guests this week, and we'll get to it later. All good guests. David Attell is a legend. I was lucky enough to interview David Attell, met him, super nice, and he is a guy that he's like Voss said, he's a club comic on Thursday, right? And I have a lot of admiration for these guys. Comedy clubs are really the best place to perform if you're a comedian, best place to see a show if you're a comedy fan. But David Tell, he had a show. I mean, legendary show with Insomniac. Then he had the Dave's old porn show that Jim was on. That had like a cult following. But that's just kind of where he sat. And then he's a legend in New York. He deserves to be a legend everywhere. He is so unique. There is in his delivery, his presence, his writing. He's just one of a kind. And unfortunately, he's one of these guys. I don't think he's going to get his full due until he's gone. And I think, when they were on, Sam brought up a good point. I think we've talked about before because some of the guys go on the show is there are a lot of Attell juniors.
Yeah.
And it was a great question by Sam. And I think Dave brushed it off. He didn't want to insult anybody. And I will say, and these guys are great comics, but it's interesting that Dave picks these guys to open for him. Ian Fidance does the bagoo goo gaga goo ba 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 Dave Attell. And Jay Okerson, who opened for Attell, just sounds like Attell all the time. He's Attell. If you're gonna roast him, you'd say it's Attell with leather gloves. But Jay is, and everyone says does amazing crowd work. He's a great comic. But when you're a headliner, and I learned from doing stand up, like you don't want guys that are just like you right before. So it's interesting. He picks those guys. I thought it was a great question by Sam.
Yeah, I thought it was too, and he did kind of brush it off. No, I learned about Dave, I think before I even was an Opie and Anthony fan because of the Insomniacs show. I was like, this guy's funny, and he's walking around the city in the middle of the night doing things. And it was kind of at the burgeoning years of kind of reality TV and those kind of things where you see someone just kind of doing something interesting. So Dave was great. And good on the show, funny, so sweet and nice. You never would kind of think that of him, but he seems that way. And yeah, I think he, like you said, is a legend, and so many people respect him. There's no one that says he's not funny. Not one of those comedians, that we've ever heard about. Don't put Attell on this high pedestal.
Yeah, yeah. And again, Ian and Jay, outstanding comedians.
Sure.
Very, very good at what they do. And just surprising that Dave would pick them to open for him.
When
I
they
mean,
sound the
nice
same,
guy.
yeah. Yeah.
He knows that they're a fan.
Maybe it comes from, as Jim says, you want when you're at this point of your career, which they both are, Jim and Dave, that you want to be around people you like. Your
That's
openers is
powerful.
when you want to spend time. So, if they have the same kind of mannerism, same way of talking, maybe it's the same kind of, hanging
Mindset.
out and yeah, mindset. So maybe that's the reason why he likes being around them, just
I
because
think
they,
that's fair. I think
yeah,
that's fair. And maybe another reason that Attell is such a legend during the interview, he doesn't he hates vacations, doesn't take vacations, and then they whoever it was Sam pressed him a little more on it. He like only doesn't do stand up like a day or two here or there. Like he that's the most he's ever missed working. He said was 1 or 2 days. I mean,
yeah,
that's why he's a legend. You got to work that hard. You got to love what you do.
for sure, for sure.
uh, Somebody who didn't love doing something, and you guys see all the stuff in my background every week, and I have some other stuff that I like to get signed. I love Jim getting irate at Tom Brady, and I want to pose the question now for the bracket potentially next year. Does Jim hate Tom Brady because of the signing debacle that happened? What do you think?
Yeah, I think his hatred is equally shared to Tom and the organizers of this whole event that screwed it up and really did a poor planning on that. They didn't go through the rules. And you've been to a lot of these things. You've, even done a lot with your career where you have to take care of people doing these things. And we're signing books only. We're signing this only. There's some rules. So if they don't stipulate that and people are bringing in, footballs and that kind of stuff, they screwed up. But then Tom's kind of a jerk and not signing things. But in his defense, and he doesn't need the money, right? But those things are going to be worth a ton of money. His draft card, what he should have did and what they suggested is not sign anything like that. Say, hey, dude, I'm not signing that. I will sign this for you, but I'm not going to sign your draft card because I'm not going to do my signature and I'm not going to ruin it. It's kind of like a common courtesy thing. So yeah, maybe Tom isn't in tune with being a fan anymore. Maybe he's just too far into his celebrity that he can't remember what it's like to be a fan.
He handled this so horribly. He was a giant baby. If I had something that was going to sell for a lot of money,
Hmm.
take care of your family with a little extra money, or something you want to pass down to your kids and display. And he just a billionaire just ruins it instead of not
Yeah.
signing it. There's no defense.
And
They
it doesn't,
didn't
I'm
communicate
sorry.
properly
Yeah,
to
and it
either
doesn't
side.
hurt him. It doesn't hurt him one bit. He's not losing any
No,
money.
exactly. You're right.
Doesn't hurt him one bit. Just sign the darn thing. Who cares?
Yeah, and I
You're right.
still can't stand it. Voss who was a guest Thursday had some memorabilia, but it was there was a shadow of a doubt as to whether it was legitimate or not. How did that transpire, and what was the verdict?
I'll tell you what, it could have been the most hilarious thing to happen in recent history with up there with giving out his password as well as, buying a car or wanting to win a car on Facebook. Those are legend stories with Voss. So they're just talking about memorabilia. And Rich said, yeah, I think it's like a TV guide that is signed by The Rock and China and so many of these other wrestlers. And just was like, Sam's like, yeah, that might be worth something. Um, and then they started doing a little research, and some of those TV guides came out with autographs that were printed on the TV guides that came out. So Sam's ears, even though I can't see him, I know just perked up.
Yeah,
His eyes got wide, and just like, this is fake. And Rich got taken by the fake, like the shoes, that Sam had him sell. Remember when Sam gave him
yeah,
the
yeah.
shoes to go?
Amazing.
They weren't real. And I'm sorry to say that we believe that maybe they are real signatures on those TV guides. But how'd we find out? Do you remember how we found out?
No, I don't. I was actually I forgot.
Yeah.
I forgot
Yeah.
to on them.
So he goes, I have it at home. Wait a minute. Let me call Bonnie.
Oh, right, right, right.
So they get Bonnie on the phone. And she's so hilarious. He's like, Bonnie, I want you to go down to the garage. She goes, no, I'm not doing that. No, it's in the garage. Just go. No, I'm not doing it. So Jim had to get on the line and say, Bonnie, we think that Rich might have done something foolish. Would you please look into it? Oh, yeah, sure. Because Jim wants to make Rich look like a fool. And she took a picture of that TV guide or whatever it is and sent it into the boys. And they analyzed it. And Sam thinks that maybe they're right. He has a question about Stone Cold Steve Austin's signature. It may not be correct, but yeah, it was a great little thing that happened.
Sam would know signatures, especially the wrestling signatures. Yeah, it makes me upset also, but I think they're probably real. A new term for a certain relationship we've heard about that's going on behind the scenes in the show. We've heard about for a while. That's Travis and Jermaine, and they're sleeping in a car together for the art show, as Jim likes to call it. The art like 2-inch paintings because the guys are little and they have little beady eyes, uh, and they sleep in a car to save a spot in line or whatever. Jim calls them car. Who called them car warriors? Did Jim come
I,
up with it?
I think so, and I
Yeah,
think
it
so,
sounds like
and yeah, it's definitely, and it's perfect, and it's in reference to the Brokeback Mountain kind of relationship that Travis and Jermaine have. Poor Jermaine, they even were
legendary.
talking about that. Yeah, they're talking about we're using Jermaine's real name here. This guy's just getting said that he's having a romantic relationship with Travis's friend. It's like
Probably has a family. Yeah.
yeah, he has a family. That's like why is this happening? But yeah, it's a funny bit, and I can just hear Troy's production piece coming out on Car Warriors.
Another thing that like you just kind of go, huh? Is like Jermaine's never called into the show. I don't believe ever.
Yeah,
To
that
my
is odd.
knowledge, maybe
Yeah,
a long time ago, or O&A days or something. But yeah,
good point.
be great to hear him. Maybe he's just heard all the ribbon. He's like, there's no way I'm going out with these
Yeah.
animals. Um, Speaking of animals and perhaps deep noises, deep sounding noises or voices, they revisited. They played this before. I think it's been a minute, but the Kenneth Copeland, the preacher, the mega church kind of guy who appears to be quite a scammer. His Inside Edition interview. First of all, I want to call in, but let's do it late. Is that is Lisa Guerrero from I believe from the that did the interview from the Best
Oh
Day of Sports
wow.
show. May or may not have posed in Playboy. Very very good interview. Very very beautiful, smart, great journalist. I would have appreciated a deep dive into Lisa. It would take me back a little bit to like the high school days and also kind of to educate everyone about her. But yeah, she in that interview came out towards the end. She let on that her I believe is in her family. I think uncles were uh,
Yeah.
were
Our
preachers.
grandfathers. Yeah.
Yeah, so and it goes in her family and just hammering him. Great questions, great follow-ups, making him
She
admit
would
how much money he spends, everything he buys, and I
Yeah,
love
she would not let him off the hook, man. It was great. I remember this interview, and if you watch it, you can just see him seething, right?
yes.
But he's a preacher, so he's gonna try to turn it, and doesn't work on her. She's just hammered him, like you said, and it was a fantastic revisit of that piece.
Absolutely amazing. And they added a little something from Sam's studio. I think we're going to differ on the perception. I did not think the double voice was funny for a second. I thought it was so morning zoo-ish. And maybe there's irony there and why that makes it funny because it's morning zoo-ish. Like some of the things that they do are, it did nothing for me.
Yeah, I think it was just a little enough. It was not too much. If it was continuing on, like if we hear it again next week, then yes, it's Sue. But for the piece, for what it was being used for, I enjoyed it. And then Jim was doing his own voice in studio because it wasn't hooked through Sam's
That
processor.
made it
So
funny.
that
That was
that
made it
made it
funny for
funny.
me.
Yeah,
uh,
absolutely. And then Troy brought up the fact, it's like they used to have all those soundboards. He's like,
yeah.
yeah, we don't
Yeah.
have those soundboards. Why don't we have those anymore? Still wasn't answered, still wasn't installed. There is this, I don't know if a dark veil, but there are some things I feel that are going on with this show that, why, for instance, you kind of brought up, why haven't we heard ever from Jermaine? Why don't we have the soundboards? Why no hugs? There's some things that are kind of percolating in the background that in a show that is very transparent and honest, why aren't we getting some of these answers?
There's different categories, right? Travis
Yeah.
should be like, "That's my friend. He doesn't want to come on." That could be that simple.
Yes.
Um, the the soundboard. I don't know if that's. It sounded when they're talking about the soundboard. It's like they just kind of forgot about it. So I don't think that's something like the videos that Sirius is completely dropping the ball on. I think that's just not how they do the show. I guess.
Maybe
But
they've
it was funny. I
they've
love when
grad
Jim used to do it. I thought Jim
maybe
was.
they've graduated from doing the
Yeah.
hits on that. Okay, I'm with you. Go ahead. What
I
else?
love a good conspiracy, but a good show conspiracy, but it might be that simple. But speaking of Troy, Sam brought up this whole thing with the hugs. Sam thinks he rode off on a horse into the sunset with the hugs. He doesn't have to do it. Miguel call every day about the hug. Like you can't propose an amazing bit and be like, oh, it makes me uncomfortable. That's why it's funny. That's why everyone wanted to see it.
Do it with restrictions. It's not that horrible of
Well,
a
they're not.
thing.
They're
And
all like they're not gonna like be naked. It's gonna
right,
be funny and get Hot Dog in there to tape it. Like, come on, you can't put a bit
exactly.
on a table and then be like, it makes me uncomfortable. We're gonna completely ignore it.
I mean, this whole show has been built on being uncomfortable from its first start with Opie and Anthony to now. It
Excellent.
makes you uncomfortable, and that's what makes it funny.
Speaking of uncomfortable, Jim, and this is why you got to check out Jim's Instagram because this originated on his Instagram videos. Since he's had Nikki, Jim's been very active and it's all really good content on
Yeah.
social media, I will say. But he started calling the show an abbreviated form Norton and Robs. And I do like that. I do. It has a good ring to it, despite what everyone else says.
Let me ask you this: do you have a line of the week associated with Norton and Robs at
No,
all? Okay,
no.
so I want to share something. It's not my line of the week, but it's
All
something I
right.
thought was very funny when he comes in and talked about that. They were talking about Norton and Robs, and Sam said he didn't really like that name for their show. He goes, why don't you maybe call me the Mule because my name is Samuel, so mule's in there. So it could be, Norton and the Mule. And Jim said, yeah, I like that, but I think that's the name of Nikki and I's podcast already. So quick, so good. I love that. So yeah,
Best.
Norton and the Mule, probably already taken.
That's amazing. Speaking of Norton, he is by us. Well, he was by us
He's
Thursday.
still by us. He's closer to us
Closer to
than
us than when
normal.
he's in New York. Yeah.
Right.
But
Right.
it is in Bloomington, Illinois now, which is I think like a 3 hour hike from
Two. Well, for me, two.
yeah,
I'm a
maybe a
little further
little
out.
more for
Yeah.
me, maybe a little bit. But yeah, got in the Midway Airport in Chicago, going to Bloomington, and we're hoping that he stopped at
Wally's in Pontiac. Exactly. You got your mug. Well done. I got
Rumble.
my shirt. Yeah. I mean, for crying out loud, he was like, I don't know. Is it out of the way? It is literally off the highway that he's taking from Chicago to get to Bloomington. It's off the highway.
Yeah.
I stopped off there just because I knew of it,
I would go.
and took pictures
Next time I
just
go
like
by.
Jim should, right? And then of course, all the callers in this area were, going, you got to do it. It's right there. And they're talking about all the great things that are in the Wallies. And of course, you got something, show the mug again, right? Up in that mug right there.
Mascot right there.
Yeah, you got the mascot. So there's a stuffed animal waiting to be had
I would get it.
for Nikki, right? And so, yeah, I wish we could have
Kiss Wally before you go to bed. Kiss Wally.
exactly. I wish we could have just gone down and met
Oh,
Jim at Wally's at least and
that
took in
would
the
have
show.
super
But we're
fun.
busy men. We can't always do those
We
things that
all
we
are.
want to
We
do.
all are.
Sure.
Prediction. Give your prediction. Do you think he stopped at Wally's?
I'm interested in this because he was doing some Instagram stories at the airport when he was leaving with his opener yesterday, and I saw that on Instagram, but I haven't seen anything on Instagram. We're taping Friday. I haven't seen anything yet. I'm sure he did because he has nothing else to do. He wasn't this, he traveled on Thursday. He wasn't doing a show Thursday because we know Jim likes to go in the day before. He has nothing to do. I've been in Bloomington. There's nothing to do. So yeah, I'm sure he stopped in and hopefully we'll get that content soon enough. But yeah, we'll
What
see.
was the other place he did stop at? What was the other famous rest stop?
Bucky's back
Bucky's.
when
He
he was
stopped at
in
a
yeah
Bucky's.
in the Texas area with Nikki and whatnot. Yeah,
For
and he
that,
said I still haven't. He said like I have I uploaded those videos. Like no, there's more videos
that's
out
why I
there.
think he stopped. And I think Jim is savvy that he saves a lot of stuff for the show.
Yeah,
He kind of does that. So I think maybe you don't see those photos or videos. Comes to the show, he stopped there.
but
That my
he
prediction.
does save a lot of stuff. But then, as we well know, Jim forgets a lot of things. So
He texts Travis though. Travis is
yeah,
timekeeper.
so he'll save it and then he'll forget about it. Jim is a dichotomy, man. He and it's brought up on the show many times. He will know an actor from the 70s name. He will know a guy that flew a plane and it crashed name back in the 70s. And Travis calls him, it's like, it's amazing. Or he'll know the date of something. Was that 1976? It was in 1976. They're blown away. And then he'll forget something that happened yesterday.
Yes.
So who knows? He's an enigma. And so we're happy to be trying to unwrap him every week.
He's an enigma wrapped in a riddle. A
All
riddle.
those things, right?
Yeah. From Jim's beloved JFK movie he likes to
Sure.
quote. And people thought Bob was Sam's assistant or his father at WrestleMania, because he's wearing a not Sam shirt. And we found out. I think this is when Bobby called in when Boss was on, right?
No, I actually it happened. I mean, it happened around the
Really
same time, but yeah, Sam was telling the story prior to that
amazing.
of because they were talking about Rich getting his watches, right? And Bobby's the guy that helps gets the watch and all that kind of stuff. So we're all talking about that. And they came to a great realization too with Bobby is that Bobby wants to be the guy that gets you to the guy. That's his thing. He likes to be
Yes, yes.
known for the one that can set you up. So Sam said, yeah, it was a really nice thing that Bobby did. He wore a Not Sam sweatshirt to a WrestleMania event that he went to with Sam. And people saw that, and a lot of people said, one person, I guess, from WWE said, I wanted to come up and talk to you, but I didn't want to bother you with your assistant. And then somebody else said, it was nice to see you and your father and your son at WrestleMania
That's so
because Max was with them.
Max is
So
there too. Yeah,
yeah, it was
that's so
great. It
great.
was good stuff.
Love that mistaken identity there. I don't know if you had a chance to listen to this yet. It was just a great interview. Jim was on. Jim kind of continues going on these big podcasts, and he was on Not Today, Pal, with the kids from The Sopranos, and all grown up. It's awesome. They're friends. They seem like we talked about this before. I think we were last time on our show. Like they seem like the most down to earth people, and
Yeah.
they're actors that you could also ask them about the big project, and it's okay. And it was great. It was just a lot of respect thrown Jim's way and right back. Great interview. I love their set. They're in the Your Mom's House studio in
Yeah. I mean, Jamie
Austin.
Lee, is
Yeah,
it Jamie Lee Siegler?
I
Is
think
that her
it's
name?
Siegler again. Yeah, and
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
other gentleman's
And yeah, I
gentleman's
can't remember his name,
AJ. I
but
forgot, but he
AJ.
is
Yep.
he's super cool.
And they moved
She knows.
to Austin, right? I mean, so it's so
Yeah.
I think a lot of times when Hollywood types get out of Hollywood, let's say, they're just
Oh,
different. They get it's not that pressure, so they have this great kind of relaxed atmosphere. They're not always on the make. They've
yeah.
identified this is my what I'm doing now. So yeah, they make Jim, and I think she posted and he reposted an Instagram story, a little bit of that interview. So it was yeah, it was great, and I look forward to watching the whole thing.
Robert Eiler is the actor you
There
play.
we go. Well done, sir.
And I
Because
used
I
to
mean, you
do
are
that
in
'cause
this
I'm a
business. You
fan of
need to know
his.
that you need to know these names. I don't remember.
I don't know.
I'm a lot like Jim at times. I'll remember things that happened in 1942 with World War II, but I'll forget the name of my daughter. Sorry, Sydney. I won't forget it. It's your graduation this weekend. I will not forget it.
Right on your hand.
There you go.
All right, let's get to guests. Kind of talked about before. So, in addition to Attell and Voss, who we talked about a little bit, we had Modi on. And Modi, we talked about before, he's a gentleman. Jim likes him a lot. I think they're good friends, fits well on the show. Who do you like the most? What did you think? Any breakdowns?
Yeah, just a little bit. I just liked Modi a lot because he's talking Passover. Obviously he's very Jewish,
Yep.
but also brings a lot of comedy to it. He has a show actually coming up in Skokie, which isn't too far
Yeah.
from us here in Chicago. And they are talking about first class air travel, and of course Jim's eyes poked up, and I thought it was kind of funny because it sounds like that Modi has his very own Nikki and his husband Leo. They want the finer things. They always have to take care of them in a certain way. And I think Leo doesn't want to fly commercial anymore. He just wants to fly private. So I love those I love that they can connect on that kind of stuff. Attell, we already talked about how great he was. And they talked about, getting food after gigs. It was nice just how Jim and he have this, coming up at the same time and doing the same type of things. That was cool. And then of course we had Voss and Rich Voss was excellent this week once again. And I hate to
I'm
say
gonna
it.
make you say that again.
God dang it. Can I tell you why he was excellent?
Yeah,
I have
please.
three things I want to talk about. First of all, Voss was extremely funny. Jim was questioning him about if he ever gets upset about Bonnie's success and what Bonnie's doing and how, everybody embraces Bonnie, how good he is. No, no, man. It's so good. I just don't. Of course I get upset. He just was really, he did a great job
Oh, it
of
was a
laying it
complete
in there.
180, and like you
Yeah,
thought you
it
were getting
was,
sincere Voss.
yeah. I was like, Voss, really? No, he was complete. I love that.
It was so
And then
good.
the Dabbleverse story about
Yeah.
Stuttering John and Chad and that
Awesome.
whole thing where he talks about I'm not ruining your line of the week, am I on this?
No, no, no.
Okay. So he talks about how, Rich popped into this Instagram thing that Chad's going to go on John's show to promote and that kind of
Yeah, yeah.
stuff. He goes, I thought you guys were enemies. And he goes, never mind. I can't get involved in the middles drama. He's calling them both middles. It's so funny. Then the last thing I laughed at very hard that Rich said along the same lines is that he talks about, working with MCs on his gigs. And he goes up to him and he'll say, hey guys, did I give you my number? And they say no. And he just walks away. So I got to give it to Voss. Voss was my favorite guest. And gosh, mark the time that I said that.
Wow. So you text me that you thought his almost a performance, but just his segment
appearance,
he was a great guest. And I thought it was okay.
Oh.
No. Listen.
All right. Sorry. I apologize. I jumped the gun.
But no, because I love him always so much, and I love him. But this is like my PSA. I was just busy doing stuff, and then once I saw your text, I went back and listened, and it's right in line with everything else, or even better. Like, it was a great appearance. Just like sometimes if you're cleaning, you're working out. I was doing work, like it just didn't all get in my brain. I had to listen again, and thank God I did. It was fantastic. Yeah, I got to go with Attell. We've got a lot of us lately, and it's all been gold. But Attell made me realize what a legend he was, and he needs to be talked about more.
I don't deny that at all, but it has to be a lot to move my barometer needle in Voss's direction, and I think he did it. So
I think we're both right.
Yeah, very, very good.
All right, let's get to line of the week. There's been some teasing that we've been doing for line of the week. What do you got?
I have two, and I don't want to steal anything because we've talked about a lot of funny lines. So I would like you to go first, just so I don't steal any.
Yeah, I usually just get one. So, and I don't think you have this one. It's a little under.
Okay, good.
When I'm trying to think how this came up. There was I think they were doing I think it was a Wally's video. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that they showed a cat in a Wally's video. There was like a cat outside or something. And if it was another video, I apologize. But I think it was the Wally's video they were watching to talk Jim into going. But Jim saw a cat and he goes, "I wish he was in a documentary." Don't F with cats words.
I know, it's just so mean.
Oh, Jim, that was dark, but
right. And I couldn't even watch that documentary for that reason alone. Man.
I wanted to see him catch the guy, and it was enjoyable.
I mean, that was a big part of it, wasn't it? That just the internet folk kind of recognized where this guy lived and kind of zeroed in on him. And that part I love, but I don't want to get to the point where all the torture was happening or anything. All right. So for mine, I have two, like I said, and it comes both when they're talking to Dave Attell. So you should clue in on this. And the first one was more about, let me see, maybe it wasn't. I think you know what? I screwed it up. So I usually kind of copy and put them on there. So I don't even remember my first one. So I'm going to go just with my main one here, that they were talking to Adele, and they're asking if Dave was seeing anybody, right? Dave, you seeing anybody? And they said, nah, I don't know. Maybe you and your lady, talking to Jim, could hook me up. And Jim said, yeah, if you want one of her friends, I'm sure I can find you one. He goes, how much pillow can you fit in your mouth? It's just so dirty and so harsh, but only if you know it. I mean, if your kid hears that, you're like, I don't hear that. I don't know. They don't know what they're talking about. But us hearing it makes us laugh.
He's a great kid.
Mr. Absolutely.
Norton. And as Jim is fast, you guys are great. Thank you all for watching and listening. Chris, thank you for everything you're doing behind the scenes and for making time to the show. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, my brother. It's just the highlight of my week is kind of breaking this down, because just reliving the things that we enjoy. And we hope we bring you a little joy when you come visit us here in the town square.
Thanks for watching and listening to the Jim and Sam Town Square. Please remember to like and subscribe and turn on that notification bell, not dog bell, so you don't miss an episode.
And if you're just listening to the podcast, please leave us a 5-star review. We really appreciate it.